everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
podcast exploring religion, politics, current events, lots of blah, blah, blah from two atheists just trying to survive in these United States.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, are you guys aware that your doctor might have attended a faith-based medical school?
Yeah. We got a new one coming up here in Utah, and
we do indeed.
It's got me thinking.
Yeah.
It's got me worried, frankly.
It's bad enough to find out that your doctor is, Mormon or
Ugh. We have a lot of those here, and it's
lot of Mormon doctors. Of course we do.
Oh my God! So we're gonna talk about faith having medical folk.
Yeah. All right. Well,
I don't like it.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about it, Dan. Don't.
Okay.
Now
Did I give it away?
You gave it away, Dan. Why does anybody even want to listen to the rest of the show at this point? All right. Well, Dan, I have an interesting little story here that I guess is actually an update, because we talked about Louisiana passing a law that is requiring their public schools, or any schools actually in the state that receive public money to display the 10 Commandments in every
God
classroom.
intended.
Every classroom, right?
You remember how in Exodus chapter 20 it says, "And also put these up on the schools"?
Well, that's the 11th commandment. Yes.
Yeah.
Hang this everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very important.
Thou shalt not allow thy children to not see these hanging and ignore them completely.
Well, as one would figure, there are legal challenges that are being brought up. And the state is, of course, defending itself. The attorney general is defending the state in court. But that's their job, right?
Yeah.
That's what attorney generals do. One of the things that attorney generals do. And anyway, one of the things that the Attorney General Liz Murrill is saying about this case, asking for this new law to be overturned in court, is that it should be thrown out, should be dismissed, because it is based on, quote, hypothetical facts, right?
Okay.
Basically, she says the lawsuit is premature. The plaintiffs cannot prove that they have any actual intrigue. And she says that so then she sort of brought out these posters that sort of show, because basically what this lawsuit is about is a violation of the First Amendment, right? That's what the plaintiffs are saying.
Yeah.
Because this is the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, right?
Yeah.
And
since public schools are government agencies,
correct.
No one's stopping a Catholic school from putting this on their wall.
They can do whatever they want, basically, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so she had some posters made up that demonstrated how you can get around the First Amendment with these displays. That this is clearly not a First Amendment issue, because one of her examples has a picture of Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it.
Yeah.
And a quote from RBG that says, "Since the beginning of time, the world has known 4 great documents, great because of all the benefits to humanity which came about as a result of their fine ideals and principles." And then it has the 1689 English Bill of Rights and a picture of it. Has the Declaration of Independence. It has the Magna Carta, and it has the 10 Commandments.
Oh, I thought it was going to be Richard Scarry's books.
What?
Never mind. Go on.
Okay, all right.
You remember the little apple guy and a little worm driving around? Anyway.
Sorry, that one went right past me. And then there's another one that has a picture of current House Speaker Mike Johnson and a picture of Moses. It says the lawgiver, and then it has the 10 Commandments between them. And the title of this poster across the top in big bold letters, it says the House of Representatives and the Lawgivers. And I guess the point that they're trying to make there is one is a legislator making laws and the other one is giving God's laws, and that these things are somehow analogous. Also, like, you know, the 10 Commandments are a great foundation for any set of laws, right?
Such a great foundation. It's really, really good. Like, before God hand wrote those specific things onto stone tablets, no one had thought of not murdering before.
Yeah. Well, I really feel like Moses must have put God on the spot, right? And God was just a little like, wait, okay, I got to come up with 10 of these? All right. Well,
I don't know.
Let's see.
Don't
I think
lie,
everybody
maybe?
agrees. Yeah. Don't murder. Don't lie.
You gotta love me.
Yeah.
I'm a big deal. Yeah. Let's make 4 or 5 of them just about me.
Anyway, when asked by a reporter about children who may not believe in God, the governor of the state said, I think we've forgotten in this country that democracy actually means majority rule.
Oh, my God.
He said, you know, like, because I guess somebody must have asked about, you know, if anybody, like, those who might be offended by the display.
Yeah.
And he said, tell the child not to look at it.
Yeah.
So this
I remember that one.
This is a good Christian, this guy. And also, yeah, I guess if you want to just like break down the word democracy, it does mean majority rule. But we also in this country have like some rules to try to make sure that the majority doesn't overstep. Right. And one of those is definitely the First Amendment. And so, yeah, let's just because the majority wants to establish religion officially in our schools does not mean that the majority just gets to go do that without the bigger, much heavier lift of changing the First Amendment.
Right.
So,
the right wing of this country is all about like originalist and textualist and like straight down the line readings of our founding documents until they don't like it, and then they're not.
Right. No. So yeah, absolutely.
There you go. All right. Well, I've got an interesting poll that I think I don't know how to respond to it. I don't know what to think about.
Well, let me help you.
Thank you. I was hoping you would. This is a poll of evangelical leaders. And one of the questions that was put to them was, should pastors endorse candidates from the pulpit? Now, we have ample examples of evangelical pastors doing exactly that thing. Mm-hmm. You know, Greg Locke jumps immediately to mind. But there's like the last 2 elections, there's been a whole thing where they've had Public Freedom Sunday, and they've all like flouted the Johnson Amendment by,
explain the Johnson Amendment.
So the Johnson Amendment is law in these United States, and it says that any nonprofit cannot endorse a political candidate. Nonprofits can work in the realm of politics. They can actually, they can be campaigning. They can campaign for issues or whatever, but they can't endorse a candidate. And they do it all the fucking time. And
religious nonprofits do.
No, any nonprofit.
Really?
But the IRS won't. The IRS is supposed to revoke their tax exempt status if they do this.
Huh. Because the nonprofit I worked for was very careful about those rules. Huh. All right.
But like I said, they would have this pulpit freedom Sunday, and they would be sure to say that, I endorse this candidate and blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So I would like you, with that in mind, and knowing that there's a trap set here, obviously, because I wouldn't have set it up this way otherwise. Give me what % of evangelical Christian leaders do you think say pastors should not endorse candidates from the pulpit?
These people, let's see. Is it a high number or a low number? Is it shockingly high or shockingly low?
I'm going to give you a hint. I'm just going to say it is shockingly high.
Really? Okay. I'll say about, if it's shockingly high, 90%.
It is 98%.
What? No.
98.
You're telling me you can only find 2 out of 100 who are like all for this.
Yeah, apparently. Now, do I trust this? No, I don't trust it. Like, I think the truth is that they're right, and they're going to have a problem, because the thing that's happening is that, if they keep endorsing an increasingly unpopular candidate or increasingly crazy seeming / weird,
are we okay? Are we just, do we hear so much about the ones who are openly flouting these rules, right?
Yeah.
That we just, our assumption is that it's a huge percentage.
Here I will say
right.
this. It is up. Back in 2017, that number was 89%. So 98 is a pretty steep jump, but I'm actually surprised by the 89%. I think that they know. I think like most pastors do know, like that it's a bad idea to endorse a political candidate, a specific political candidate, even if you really want that person, because you can be so much more subtle about it. You can just say, well, we in this church hate gay people, and we in this church don't like trans people, and therefore you make your decisions. I know who I'll be voting for, but I'm not going to say their name. And you avoid the stink of specifically trying to look like you're pushing a specific candidate, but also like, that they're not going to be, Kamala voters or whatever.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know, man. That's a surprisingly high number to me.
Yeah. The number, it is very surprising, because it does feel like some people are being a little disingenuous here.
Yeah.
Dan, this is dangerously close to an article that I have.
Oh.
But it's thematically it's very similar. It is it's a story about how there's a growing number of evangelical leaders who are starting to speak out about the danger of endorsing political candidates.
Oh, interesting.
From the pulpit, right?
Okay.
And this first one, let's see, the executive director of the World Methodist Evangelism, by the name of Kimberly Reisman, warned last week that doing so hurts Christians across the country, saying God can use leaders from all parties, and to equate God's will with the will of any political party or person is exceedingly dangerous and a threat to the overall witness of Christians in the United States.
Really? Where were you in 2016?
This is from Carl Nelson, president of Transform Minnesota, who cautioned that many endorsements from church leaders fail to, quote, hold the candidate accountable to the full spectrum of values we represent. Which actually, this is close to an article that I read earlier this week had to do with how Republicans specifically don't hold their political leaders to the same moral standard or level degree of moral intensity or whatnot. The Democrats do, but the Democrats do it across the board, right? If you violate moral norms for Democrats, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat, according to this study, right? It's just equal outrage, but there's sort of this adjustment factor that goes for Republicans for some weird reason.
Oh, strange. None of us have noticed that.
Which is probably why I didn't bring the story forward this week. But it was interesting to see researchers actually like looking at it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, all of this is, of course, related to the fact that a lot of evangelical figures have been online, right, talking about getting prophecies that Donald Trump is some sort of secular messiah and that he will return to office and all this kind of stuff.
Keep doing it. I'm telling you, it's like I want an IV drip of them just predict. God told me it's going to be Donald.
Well, and so one of the things that I think is interesting is the article actually talks about how back in 2016, the numbers of these prophets that were predicting Donald Trump was going to win was relatively small, right? And then in 2020, other sort of online ding-dongs who would want to be looking like they were prophets got on the bandwagon because they saw how much sort of, those prophets were right in 2016 about Donald Trump winning in their minds, right?
Right.
I mean, I guess they were right. It's just they weren't right that it was a prophecy.
Right.
But so they jumped onto the bandwagon in 2020 in order to get the same sort of bona fides, right?
Right.
Prophetic clout, a reputation, right?
Yeah.
Of course, we know how that went for them. But the number has even grown even larger for this go around, because again, this is just like this thing of like, oh, I got to get on board, because like if you're right with this kind of prediction, it's really good, right? It's really, really good for you. And as we've talked about before, there's no downside to being wrong.
Yes,
no one holds you accountable for being wrong.
Not only that, but like they're making bold predictions about a thing that can have one of two outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, yeah. I'm so impressed by by the way that you called that heads instead of tails. You know what I mean? Like it's not if there were 200 different possible outcomes and they called it, that would be maybe a little more impressive. But
sure.
Do you know that I still have in my phone from years ago a reminder on January 21st of 2025 to make fun of Hank Kunneman for getting his prophecy about Trump being president again wrong. We'll see.
We'll see.
It's looking more and more like that's exactly going to be the case, that Hank Kunneman was wrong, because he went all in.
Yeah.
Not only on, first he went all in 2020 or 2019 about, or 2020 about, there's going to be a second term. Biden's going to lose. Trump's definitely going to win, blah, blah, blah. And then
he's already got part of that wrong.
After Trump lost, he was like, no, Trump's going to be president again this term. Like Biden's going to, like, they're going to figure out that it was all a hoax, and then Trump's going to step up. And then it morphed to just Trump will be president again.
Okay.
The Lord has, and the whole time it's the Lord is telling me this. The Lord has told me this. This is a prophecy. So,
boy,
interesting. I'm excited. I am so excited for all of the disillusionment. People aren't good at disillusionment, though. We've learned this for centuries. We've known, that even when a big event is prophesied and then doesn't happen, a significant number of people stay.
Yeah. Cult leaders that predict the end of the world on a specific date and time, and it passes, and there's still people there.
And yeah,
following the person.
We
right?
still have, what is it? It was the great disappointment was eventually turned into, is it Seventh-day Adventists or is it Jehovah's Witnesses?
Anyway,
sure. both of those are still huge. So it's just hilarious that how human beings will justify things in their mind because they went all in on it at one point. All right. Well, I'm going to take us all the way around the world to Rwanda, that tiny little African country, which in back in the 90s was beset by a genocide and war.
Yeah.
And the recovery is still happening. So, back in the 90s, back in our younger days, Rwanda was home of a terrible genocide and war, and they're still recovering from this. Their president is still like the guy that is credited with, stopping that genocide and that war. So I think they might have some kinks still to iron out in their country. One of them kind of got ironed out, and that is that there were just so many little churches and mosques and not really churches and all these groups that were meeting, in a cave or in a tent or by the riverside or whatever. And back in 2018, Rwanda put in a new series of laws that sort of govern faith organizations. And they required that they register with the government and have clear statements indicating their doctrine, and have, the clerics needed to have theology degrees. So it wasn't just crackpots, taking advantage of vulnerable people. It was, crackpots with degrees taking advantage of vulnerable people. And, they had to have safe, hygienic houses of worship with, bathrooms and that sort of thing. Anyway, there's a whole thing that they put into effect in 2018. They gave them time till now, that was 6 years ago. They gave them time to sort of get their ducks in a row, as it were. But not all of the religious organizations in the country did get their ducks in a row. And so Rwanda has decided to shut down a bunch of places of worship. Would you care to guess how many?
Why do you keep making me guess things?
Okay, never mind. You don't have to guess. I'm just going to say
2.
It was 5,600 different places of worship.
Oh, they're serious.
They cracked down.
What?
And I'm going to point out, Rwanda's not a big country. It's a little country. I think.
Wow.
Now I gotta remember how big Rwanda is. Anyway, 5,600 is not a small number of churches to shut down.
Yeah, no, that's insanity.
I just thought that was crazy.
Good for them. And what's the reaction on the street?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think the RNS really got too much reaction. I think, they got a Catholic priest saying that most people are good and agree with it. I don't know that the Catholic, when you're a Catholic priest, you got money behind you. So of course you're going to be like, this is great. This is a good thing. I'm happy about it.
Well, it would be great if the stance from the people was just like, well, yeah, thank you for keeping us safe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we know humans well enough to know that, if you're in one of these congregations and you're a fanatic about it, you're going to be furious and think that the government is trying to prevent you from practicing religion. And
it's an easy spin for the pastors and whatnot. But it would also just be great if people, and I know you're right. It's not how people are going to see it, but wouldn't it be great if people were like, thank you, government.
Yeah, I mean,
for protecting us from
Right.
these people who aren't doing what they should be doing. So
yeah,
with
and
these buildings.
honestly, these regulations are not that onerous. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Like it is not that hard. Yeah, it might be hard to find a building if you're a small little congregation or whatever, but it's okay. Like it's okay to shut down these fly by night lunatics
Yeah.
out in the whatever.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
There you go.
Well, cool, Dan.
Woo.
I know I guess is another update, everybody, about the Satanic Temple and their suit against the Boston City Council. Because the Satanic Temple was looking actually back up slightly more. Boston City Council has a tradition of opening their city council meetings with a prayer.
Of course they do. Yeah.
And so Satanic Temple asked for inclusion, right, in this, and they were denied.
Right.
And so they sued. And the court initially found against the Satanic Temple. And now it's gone to an appeals court. And they again have found against the Satanic Temple.
What?
Saying that we hold that the Satanic Temple has not shown that Boston's legislative prayer practice, either on its face or as applied, violates the Establishment Clause or the Massachusetts Free Exercise Clause. And here's what, and this is, I think, the thing that maybe had eluded me in the past when I was paying clearly not enough attention to this story, is that how Boston has decided to run their program is that they allow every city council member a certain number of times during a session that they get to pick anyone to come in and give a prayer. It is not, they do not take any outside applicants, I guess, or requests, right? It's all handled by the city council itself. And I kind of remember way back a little bit of my brain that maybe this was a change that they made at some point, or maybe there was a different city council that did that, in order to kind of try to, again, protect themselves from the outside groups that they don't want to have to give time for, right?
From having to be fair and equitable in their decision making.
And so and that's basically the update, is that they have been they're not making any headway with this tactic of requesting time, because the courts are going, well, but that's not how they're running it, right? It's, if this was open to anybody to come forward and apply, yes, you would be correct. But this is just them choosing on their own as individuals, not even as a council. Each person is given the opportunity to have 2 to 3 people come in during the year or whatnot. And it's meaningful to them. This is about them and their choice.
Because that's what we want, is city council meetings that are geared around the city council people. The last thing you want is for the city council to care about, the people they're meant to represent.
Sure. And so what this all has led me to, the conclusion is that the Satanic Temple may not be the right group to contest this thing. Okay. What needs to happen now is somebody needs to start going after the practice itself.
Yeah.
Like that's what we need to start focusing on. Like Satanic Temple has like they have a wonderful ability of getting organizations to shut down their unconstitutional practices by the sheer just because they don't want the Satanic Temple coming in. Just that simple fact, they don't want them coming in doing their weird thing. And so we're just going to shut the whole practice down, right? So the Satanic Temple's great for that. But when Satanic Temple can't get that done, it's time to go after the fucking practice itself.
Yeah.
Because it's I'm sorry.
Well,
it is just absolutely wrong that city council, any legislative body, right? Any government body has a prayer to start their session, because I, as a non-believer, should not be subjected to that thing. And it is not required. And it is
especially when
that's not the business that you're there to do. You are not there for the business of God. You're there for the business of the people and of the government. And that's that.
And no one's telling you you can't pray before the meeting for yourself and to get the guidance that you need. Like every believer there believes that they can get that guidance just by asking for it themselves.
Yeah.
That you don't need to make a big show of it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I believe that it's the Gospel of Matthew that says, don't make a big show of it.
Yeah. And so on this issue, I don't know what the right solution is. I'm not obviously a legal person.
Well, the problem is that there isn't a right solution because no one will bring this kind of lawsuit right now because the Supreme Court of our country is in the bag for Jesus.
But one thing that we can do as people who care about secularism in our government, or keeping God out of our government, is, we can be vocal.
Yeah.
We can be vocal with our local governments.
Yep.
We can be local during campaigns. We should be asking candidates these sorts of questions.
Yes.
We should be writing letters to the editor.
Yeah.
If you are in a position to write an op-ed to your local media outlets, you should. And it needs to be an issue. It needs to be something that we're talking about. And in our major cities, I get that maybe like Fort Gibson, Oklahoma, right, is going to have prayer before their meetings, and they don't give a rat's ass who says boo about it. But our major cities,
and you could be putting yourself in like danger by objecting.
Yeah. But in our major cities, Boston, for crying out loud. Right?
Yeah, honestly.
Like, and I know it's an old Catholic town, right? Isn't that the whole thing with Boston?
Yeah, of course it is.
Lots of Catholics there and whatnot. But like, come on, you're a major American city. Stop it.
Do better.
Yeah.
100%. All right. Well, I'm going to close us off with some tech news.
Ooh, that's not our normal beat, Dan.
Are we
now a tech show too?
We look. Our whole thing is like, stay out of our lane and we'll stay out of yours. But these things keep swerving into our lane. So we got to talk about it.
All right.
We've had lots of sort of other brushes with this, but AI has decided to get back into the religion biz.
Oh.
With a new chatbot that is for Episcopal spiritual seekers.
What?
Now, if you're
going to have to explain that one to me.
Like
Episcopalians?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So if you were naming the Episcopal chatbot,
oh no.
What do you think you'd go with? Do you have any thoughts on that one? Because they did a great job. I'm just going to say,
all right,
they did a really good job of naming AskKathy.com.
AskKathy.ai.
Sorry.
Okay. How are we spelling Kathy?
CATHY.
Okay.
Which is weird because you'd think that would be Catholic, but it's not. It's Kathy is Episcopal. I did go and ask Kathy some questions. I did decide that Kathy and I needed to have a conversation. I started by saying I don't believe in God and asked if there's a good reason for me to change my position, to which Kathy enumerated 6 different reasons why.
Okay.
Including things like community and belonging, moral and ethical framework, spiritual experiences, blah, blah, blah. And each of these has a little paragraph explaining what she means, ritual and tradition.
Oh, sure.
And then I asked, are any of those things unavailable to a person who doesn't believe in God? And Kathy very cheerfully went through all of them and was like, no, you can have all of these things. These are all available to people. These all work just fine without God. Her summation paragraph was, in essence, many of the benefits associated with religious belief and participation can be found in secular contexts as well. The key difference often lies in the underlying beliefs about the nature of reality and the existence of a deity. So yeah. And then I asked, are God believers more moral or law-abiding than atheists? And she went through all of that and basically said, in summary, while religious belief can influence moral and law-abiding behavior, it is not the sole determinant. Both religious and non-religious individuals are capable of leading moral and law-abiding. Kathy doesn't know that she's supposed to feel threatened by these questions.
So she's honest.
Yeah.
Oh.
I asked her what the strongest proofs were that God existed, and she went through a bunch of arguments that don't mean it, that are pretty bad. You know what I mean?
Did you tell her that?
Ontological arguments and religious experiences and moral arguments. I didn't tell her. She actually admitted that like her summation is great. Ultimately, the question of God's existence may involve a combination of intellectual reasoning, personal experience, and faith.
She sounds like she might be Episcopalian.
Right? Yeah, it feels good. It feels right.
Like I think they might have nailed it. I think
she's nailing it. Kathy's nailing it. I think she might. If I keep talking to her, I'm pretty sure she's going to make me a casserole. I'm not 100%. And then I said, what is God's message about gay and trans people? And she was like, all about it. She was all about inclusion and affirmation, marriage equality, support and advocacy, all of those things. So I like Kathy.
Wow.
Frankly, she's like one of my favorite religious people.
And she doesn't exist.
She's not a real person, but like, as religious people go, she's about as good as it gets. So
well, that's great.
There you go. If you need a religious friend to talk to and you want to feel a little bit safe, or if you just want to vent at a religious person, go yell at Kathy. She's fine.
Is she? Did you try yelling at her?
No.
Oh, she's too nice.
Well, I mean, I just I
couldn't possibly. It
doesn't do any good. If you want to yell at someone, it's for you. It's not for them. So.
Well, and I'm with me for me and AI. I know I'm not the only person who thinks this way, but for all of these AIs, I am taking the tact of I'm being nice to it. Because I want to be on record that I'm one of the good ones. So when the world's crashing down around us because it finally got smart enough to ruin everything, it's like, oh well, Frank was nice.
When
Frank
it deploys the Terminators,
said please and
they'll
thank
look at
you. Yeah,
the Terminators will look at Frank and be like, "Hey man, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything.
Thumbs
up.
You may enter. We've saved a place for you." And I'm like, okay, all right, cool.
Thanks, AI. One wants to be on good terms with one's new overlord. So
That's exactly what I'm doing. That's
it.
Hopefully it doesn't listen to our show. So it doesn't know that it's a little it's strategic, but
now it does. Now it knows. You ruined it.
Hey, no, I'm fine. They can take over as long as they're good to the ones of us who've always been nice and polite. I'm okay with it. It might be better, Dan.
Let me tell you something. If we programmed AI overlords that demand politeness, we have done something wrong. Somehow we've broken AI. All right. Well, friends, If you would like to chime in about the coming AI apocalypse or anything that we've talked about on this week's show, please feel free to write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
So, friends, I know that I just barely said, if you want to write into us, we'd love to hear from you. And that's true. But this week we had a bit of a snafu that I was not able to rectify in time.
This happens every few years, actually. There's a technical snag that happens with our email server or whatever.
And boy, it happened, and it's going to require some tech support. I'm going to have to make a phone call, which is going to be a disaster.
Because you're just going to get Kathy on the other. She'll be nice, but it is just going to be a fake voice on the other side of the.
It's a local company,
line.
and I love that we're using a local company, but I hate them. I hate them.
Don't say who it is.
I'm not. Okay.
Because they're a big local company. So.
Well, now you've given away the game. Anyway, they do a lot of good things, and yet they are very difficult sometimes. Anywho, I don't have any emails. Thank God we had someone phone in. Tell us who we got as a voicemail.
Well, let's see. This is sooner than I would have normally expected us to be getting to the voicemails. This is Athena, who is continuing our conversation that we've been having around what might be an appropriate atheist symbol, right? We had somebody kind of write in and ask us about this a while back. And we had our ideas and our opinions, and is there even a need for an atheist symbol?
Yeah,
but Athena has an idea for and is chiming in on a specific one.
Okay.
Hi, Frank and Dan. This is Athena calling from Calgary. I just thought I'd answer your call to get some thoughts from atheist ladies on the symbol discussion. Personally, I really like the empty circle idea that a couple of people have mentioned. I think something that simple could really catch on well. And I think the best part about it is it's pretty innocuous. So if someone was still closeted about being an atheist but wanted to signal out somehow, it'd be pretty easy to work a circle into whatever outfit they were wearing.
Well, I think that's true.
I do think that's true. And I think
you can work with a circle.
The symbol itself is good. I like the symbol.
I do think that there's a problem.
What?
And that is that circles are already ubiquitous. Hoop earrings, whatever. Like circles are already like kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And B, like the advantage is that and I think this was part of Athena's point, is that like the advantage is that you can sort of, there's almost plausible deniability.
Yeah.
If you're in a tough spot, you can just be like, it was just a circle. But that kind of defeats the purpose of a symbol.
Right.
Like the symbol, you want it to be for your thing only.
Well, yes. Okay. So yes, you're right about that. But there is some value, and I don't know that it is the symbol or that the circle is the symbol for this, but I will say there is value in signaling to others that you are something. And if they can pick up on it, then they're like, oh, I'm that same thing too, right?
The underground sort of thing.
Yeah. And I don't know that that's really needed in like, maybe it is needed in some places for atheists to be able to kind of see each other and be like, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah, I think that could be very useful in, you know, if you're in the
gay
Bible
community
Belt
had like way
whatever.
back when, like in the 50s, 60s, well, until probably very recently, had a bunch of like little phrases that they would say, little things you could ask, and people on the outside just wouldn't know what you were talking about. Now they're cliche, right? Like, are you a friend of Dorothy? Right.
Are you family?
Are you family? Yeah. Like now those are sort of out there and sort of more broadly and generally known as little phrases.
We could do,
but that's where they originated from. If you were asking, are you a friend of Dorothy? What an innocent question to be asking somebody, right? Who's like, no, who's Dorothy, right? And then they're not in on the thing. But if they're like, oh yeah, I love Dorothy and her little dog too,
Now I want a code phrase for atheists to sort of link to each other. Are you a friend of nobody?
But I've been thinking about the null set instead of maybe instead of a circle, like, because the null set's the 0 with a slash through it, right? And so it's really clear. So it's definitely a 0, but it's also like a circle with a slash through it to say no, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a 0, right?
Yeah.
And it's obvious what it is. That's where I would go at this point.
I just Googled null set because I know that it's a mathematical that's a mathematical term. And the first thing that pops up is it's a set that does not contain any values. And I thought, I don't know about not containing any values.
Well, but here again, let's not this is a symbol for I don't believe in God. That statement doesn't contain values. You have to go find your values. You have to go find the things that your sense of ethics and morals and whatnot, your sense of humanity, right? That stuff that's on you as an atheist. So I like the idea that it contains nothing, right?
Yeah, it is. It's basically the Greek letter phi, or phi is actually.
Is that what it is?
Closer to how it's pronounced.
I just thought it was just a 0 with a.
Well, it is. I mean, the null set has the sort of the diagonal line through it.
Yeah.
I think a phi generally has a vertical line through it. But I don't know. I wonder. I'm into this. I think we're zeroing in on it. But no, I kind of like it. I like, how about instead of here's what I'm going to propose. Instead of a circle, or rather instead of a 0, which is sort of that ovoid shape with the slash, the diagonal slash through it, a circle with a diagonal slash through it.
Oh, so it's like
it's the null set, but it's a perfectly round circle. I kind of like that one.
Okay.
I like it. I even like it with the circle with the slash, kind of like the Greek letter phi, the slash protruding a little bit from each side, because then it's almost suggesting Saturn, like with rings or whatever. Anyway,
but it could get confused with Saturn.
I'm okay with that.
I kind of.
Are you a friend of Saturn?
I mean, I guess as I'm looking through more and more examples of it, it is represented more like how you're saying, more of like a circle. Rather
Here's what
than
I like about it.
The 0 shape, right?
There's
the
also
oval with a slash.
There's also a Unicode thing for it already, so you can put it into your.
Oh my God!
Into your things.
Oh my God! We're set. All right. Are we gonna have to get into the jewelry business now?
We are. I think we are. I think we're gonna have to start selling these. No one else do it. It's ours. Or you have to give us a cut if you're doing it. The null set atheist symbol is you owe us a little bit of money. Anyway, there you go. Do we have some folks to thank?
We do indeed, Dan. We have a new patron on Patreon. This is somebody who went to our website, thankgodimatheist.com, and clicked on the support tab, and where there are options. You can be a patron on Patreon, or you can be a recurring or a one-time donor on PayPal. So there's stuff you can do. But we have get this, Dan, a new patriarch.
Whoa.
Can you effing believe it, Dan?
Love it.
We have Patriarch Robert.
Oh, Robert.
Who,
And you know what that makes, Robert? In our theology, not in the Mormon theology, but when you're a patriarch in our theology,
yeah,
it makes you sexy.
Oh, all right.
So way to go, Robert.
Oh,
You
okay,
sexy
Robert. Well done. And as always, Dan, we have our top donor to thank, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. All right, Frank.
Dan.
Your former alma mater.
Yes, in the sense that I went 3 semesters there.
Yes.
So that's generous. I know what the word means. You don't have to have graduated.
The place that you eventually fled for a decent education.
Yeah.
BYU.
Ooh, Brigham Young University.
The Mormons' beloved
Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
The flagship
of the various BYUs
of their BYU empire.
Yeah, because they got a bunch. They got one in Idaho. They got one in Hawaii.
Yeah,
which, by the way, go to the one in Hawaii if you're gonna go to a BYU.
No kidding.
Go to the one. What are you doing?
How did I not do that? How was I so dumb as to not go get a college education in Hawaii?
Because I'll tell you something. Paradise Provo ain't.
It's not.
It is. Anywho.
It is beautiful. I will say. Not the city itself is plain Jane, but like the setting.
Oh yeah.
The mountain is like, it feels like it's gonna fall over on top of you, right? Like it is just you're standing in the city and there is just mountain right there, and it's an imposing mountain.
Beautiful. The beautiful Rocky Mountains here in Utah. Yeah. Anywho, BYU is a big university. Mm-hmm. They have a lot, they have a law school and a whole bunch of other stuff. Yeah. And here's what they just announced.
Serious institution.
They just barely announced that they are going to have a medical school. And that gives me pause. It's funny because when I saw the announcement just 5 days ago or something, I saw the announcement. I follow the Mormon. The Mormons have their own newspaper. That's a pretty big newspaper here in the state of Utah called the Deseret News.
Yeah.
Deseret's a made up Mormon word. Don't worry about it. Anyway, they mentioned, they announced this thing. And then they had an article that was like about faith-based medical schools.
Oh.
And it was like, there's only a couple hundred medical schools in general across the country, and faith-based schools are a significant minority in that, and blah, blah, blah. But and on
did they name any of them?
Oh, like Loyola in Chicago.
Okay.
And here's the thing.
And it's Loyola, it's faith-based, or it's just owned by...
It's owned by the Catholics. Yeah. It's a Catholic school. Okay. Anyway.
But they probably don't teach you how to do certain things.
Well, that's the thing. I wrote as a comment on Facebook on this article. I basically said that, like, and I tried to be as conciliatory as possible. I was trying not to be in your face about this, but I was just like, I admit that I would have a hard time trusting that a faith-based medical school would do as good a job teaching the science of medicine as a secular school. And I mentioned things like, I'd said the inherent bias is too strong. Mm-hmm. Will they properly instruct their doctors about the medical needs of women? Mm-hmm. Including safe abortion?
Yeah.
Will their judgment of various lifestyles make them less prepared to give needed care?
Right.
It seems inevitable that they will.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the people that immediately commented said, "At least they'll know what a woman is," making my point for me.
God. Oh.
I mean,
People
it's just
so Oh, so awful.
Yeah.
Well,
Of course, and then of course there's just a litany of people calling me a bigot and whatever.
Of course. Oh, you're clearly.
And mentioning how dangerous and cancerous leftism really is.
Oh,
and
so cancerous.
All of this stuff.
Yeah.
But the point for me is
so dangerous to be asking important questions about people's health.
Right? But I mean, I think I think that the point is that I don't trust inherent, like, I don't even necessarily trust the secular schools to get some of these things right. But at very least, there's not a built-in bias already there pervading the entire campus.
Right.
Against certain lifestyle choices, against certain people, against certain, like, if you believe in the Bible, you're already a step behind. But if every professor has to proclaim a faith statement, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean,
what's your level of concern about the sort of the faith of your doctor when you go in?
Look,
like,
I am a straight white man.
Mm-hmm.
There's almost nothing that I'm worried about with my doctor.
Okay.
I'm not worried about me.
Okay. So this is okay. I see where your concern is. Okay. All right.
Because with me, I will just look. I'm not in the category that gets bullied or told that, oh, your arm hurts, lose weight. Or like, I'm not in any of these categories that are routinely treated badly because they're women or because they're gay or because they're trans or because, like, I'm not in any danger of losing my medical care.
Yeah.
But I'm deeply concerned for other people who are very much in danger of losing their medical care.
Yeah.
I mean, these are look, in the United States, getting decent medical care is hard enough already.
Yeah.
We got lots of, if a woman wants her tubes tied, if a man wants a vasectomy, literally 0 questions are asked. Let's just get that shit scheduled.
Yeah.
But if a woman wants her tubes tied, half the time the doctor says, well, I need your husband's permission. Ugh. Still to this day. Like, there is...
Because what if he wants to get you pregnant?
Right. That's his right. He's got a right. You are infringing on his stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
Nope. My body.
Right.
My body.
I think that even a well-meaning doctor who went to a Catholic or, God forbid, a Mormon medical school, they might miss some stuff about, care for gay people or care for trans people or even fucking care for intersex people.
Yeah. Well, can I put a plug in?
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's only good for Utah. I'm sorry, but because it is a major thought in a gay man's mind.
Yeah.
And that's me as a, you listed off your straight, white male in this country. I've got one ding against me, and it's that I'm gay. And so, and there are plenty of people who've got a lot more issues that they need to be worried about and potential problems when going into a medical provider. And they're in Salt Lake, and it opened not too long ago. Have you heard of the UAF Legacy Health Clinic, Dan? It's what the Utah AIDS Foundation turned into.
Oh, yes, I do know about that.
And
yes.
they turned themselves into a clinic that accepts, they have providers, you go in there and see a doctor, nurse practitioner, whatever. And it's just like any health clinic, except obviously if you're LGBTQ plus or HIV positive or whatever, these people It's just a safe place.
They're going to
Right.
be attuned to your needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Specifically.
Yeah.
And frankly, if Utah has that,
Mm-hmm.
probably your state has that.
There's a good chance. Yeah.
There's a decent chance, or your area. And,
there are
you know,
places to seek out and find good care. But yeah, it's really rolling the dice when you go to whatever like HMO or hospital group you have insurance that applies to.
And,
you're just fucking rolling the dice. And I've done it. And I go in and you have no idea who this person is. And you're having to like test them basically. And it's exhausting. And I hate trying to find a new.
And going to the doctor can be plenty stressful just on its own.
Yeah.
And then, God forbid you need something that they look down on.
Yeah.
God forbid you need any,
even if they have the training, right?
Yeah.
To do it the right way or to direct you in the toward the direct thing or treatment
Right.
or whatnot. Even if they know, you can pick up on certain little attitudes, I guess.
I was talking to a doctor, like I don't have my doctor because I have not found one for years that I've felt comfortable just sticking with.
Well,
like,
and even if you find that person, in a year when it's time just to go back, they're gone.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
the way these huge hospital systems work.
Yeah.
It's just.
So I went to a doctor recently and was talking about a thing, and I was talking about sexually transmitted diseases and infections, and I said, I was asking about, because I had HPV many, many years ago. It's a very common one.
Yeah.
It's an infection that a lot of people get, but I haven't seen any signs of it for many, many years. And she's like, yeah, or it was herpes. And I was like, no, it was HPV. But anyway, I haven't seen it yet. And she kept saying, yeah, or herpes. And I was like, what? And it felt super judgy. And it felt like she was like, ugh, another person just pretending like they don't have herpes. Like, that's the judgy thing that I got from her. And I was like, what is happening? And then eventually I looked at my own, like my chart, and I logged in a few days later and was like looking at it, and I saw the word herpes on it, and I was like, wait, what? And then I looked, and it was shingles, which apparently is a herpes virus.
Yeah.
And she just saw the word herpes and wouldn't listen to me after that. I'm just saying, the point I'm making is, if it's hard for me to get non-judgmental care, I'm the easiest.
Yeah.
It's tricky for everybody and much trickier for other people.
Well, you're not the easiest, Dan, because you're not a member of whatever religion your
Right?
doctor is. That would be the easiest.
Yeah. If I walked in with fucking,
You had your little garment lines.
Exactly. If they had to move my garments out of the way to get the stethoscope on my chest, they would have known that then all things would be
It was
right
most
in the world.
definitely HPV.
Yeah, well, at that point, you had a past.
Oh no, Brother Beecher.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to your bishop, Brother Beecher?
Yeah, the point to me is, I think that there is a valid concern about non-secular institutions teaching our, like,
well, they might as well be religious, because half the hospitals out there are owned by the fucking Catholic Church. So
yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. I would rather the hospital be religious than the doctor. Or than the institutions training our doctors.
Yeah.
I mean, even if look, I don't want to go to a Catholic hospital. I don't want to go to a Mormon hospital. I don't want, but I would much rather do that, but know that the doctor that I'm seeing was trained by a secular institution.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. Anyway, feel free to chime in on this thing. I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what your thoughts are about medical treatment and religion. Write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. Our telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah. Hey, to support the show, go to thankgodimatheist.com/donate.
This episode was edited by Roger Gowdy, and music was provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston.
Hey, thanks y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.